Good morning, and welcome to All Souls Unitarian Universalist Congregation, New London, Connecticut. I'm Ann Kadlecek, the intern minister here, with the Reverend Caitlin O'Brien and Jesse Edwards, who is wearing both technical and musical hats today. We also have music from Gery, Elliott, and some special guests. Valia is lighting our chalice. And there are 9 other souls with us for our ritual of remembrance. And once again, thank you to Tammy for the beautiful slides. As always, our time together is shaped by many souls. So now I invite you to set aside, as best you can, and just for a little while, some of the burdens that you're carrying today. Worries, responsibilities, distractions. Let them rest for a bit and settle into this space, this moment. Not just with your mind, but with your body, with your whole being. Today is our service of remembrance. In the words of Florence Caplow, we honor and remember those who have passed into the mystery. Their rightness lives on in our vision. Their courage lives on in our commitments. And their love continues to bless the world through us. In the spirit of honoring, remembering, and blessing the world, I welcome you to All Souls, where all souls are welcome. You are joyfully and tenderly called to worship. Our opening hymn is We Are Dancing Sarah's Circle. I invite you to sing along with Reverend Caitlin.
It is a treat to have Valia with us to light our chalice. After we speak together the words in our order of worship, Val will pass the flame to Anne in Unity Hall. When we remember, O God, those we have loved and lost, help us to remember also how great a thing is loving, and that not to have loved would have been a far greater loss. Blessed be. Thank you, Val, and thank you, Anne. And this morning, amidst a range of concerns and emotions that we may bring to this worship service, we light a candle of gratitude for the loyalty of the fall foliage, for mustard yellow, crimson red, deep orange, and golden brown. We remember to pause and give this backdrop to our days, our quiet and fond attention. We give thanks today for nature's beauty. Amen.
I now invite you into our ritual of remembrance. We do this each year, speaking the names of those we have loved and lost into the reverent quiet of this gathering. This remembering with ritual and intention honors their memories and their presence in our lives as we hold the love and the loss in community. In this year of COVID, names that have been submitted will be read for you by members of this congregation, who will then light candles in their honor. I invite you, wherever you are, to sit quietly with the names as they are spoken. Perhaps light your own candle, if you are so moved. We begin with Reverend Caitlin, sharing the names of people of this congregation who died in the past year.
Lorraine Allen, Madeline Smith, Pat Sparkman, Ruth Sussler. We remember them.
Jack Ego, Alice Ego, Freddie Seidel, John Ego, Rhonda Ballard, Aloha Winiger, Robert Wheels Frost, Fran Carcianuti, Ellen Ego, Helen Keegan, Ed Cerisi, Mel Varnigan. Remember them.
George Richmond, Leslie R. Orier, Hermione L. Orier, Amy Stoddard's mother, Donna Jean Grasmick Geer, Pat Kadlecek, Kevin Regan, Thomas Hurd, Richard Siebens, David C. Westerberg, Ellen Deutsch, Jean Hayner. We remember them.
Michael Meyer, John Bruskaya, Karen Koseth Cashman, James Pierre Brassard, Michael Murphy, Corey Hunt, Bill Murphy, Christopher Frankowitz, David Powell, we remember them.
Cora Condon, Jeannie Tibbles, Jacquire Bruner, Marilyn Mosher, Robert Drake, Dominic DiMartino, Elizabeth McAvoy, John Wells, Elda Paolucci. We remember them.
Richard Taylor Blair, Ruth Brady, Great Aunt Edla, Peggy McComb, Jana Allen, Ellie Lambert, Bob Treadwell Hill, Bev Case, Trix Bodie,
Eamon Smith-Carolan.
We remember them.
Mott Hupful, Stuart Montrose, James Bunting, Martha Bunting, Doris Cheney, Nick France, Michael Day, Ruby Turner Morris, Ruth Diffenbach, we remember them.
Barbara Montgomery, Monk Montgomery, Billy Joel Green, John Thomas Murray, Mary Pappas, Catherine Samos, John Samos, Kathleen Olmsted, there it is, Charles R. Clark, Jr., Jr., Myrna Gallagher. We remember them.
Barbara Walker, Pete Jones, Patty Bean, John Stoltz, Jonathan Trumbull Hine, Reverend Thomas Payne, Arnold Feeble, Bill Partlow, Sally Cooper, Kathy Pomerantz Feldman, Carol Joya, Lorraine Waldron. We remember them.
Nicola Festa, Costantina Festa Cerulli, Marion Corich Malik, Gery Corich Colwell, Donald Joel Barber, Jean Irene Barber, Adriana Vale, Spencer Johnson, Jean Parks, Charles Piscura, Thomas Damore, Robert O'Brien, Barbara Bannon, Edna Festa. We remember them.
If there are other names that have not been spoken that you wish to share this morning, you may enter them into the chat now. And then please join in this minute of silence as I light one final candle for names unspoken. Spirit of great unknowable mystery, we offer these names with reverence and with love. May they remain present and sacred in our hearts and in our lives as we remember. Amen.
Amen.
A deep thank you to all who were part of this ritual, on screen and at home. We will close the circle now with music shared with us by Paul Carolan, Cathy Smith-Carolan, and Tim Lambert.
It's funny how don't you worry, don't you cry, for the world will love you by and by. Look at the world, so new today.
Thank you so much, Paul and Cathy and Tim. What beauty you've shared with us. Thank you. Our story for all ages is called Ghost Wings. There's a place in the Mexican forest where monarch butterflies go. In the autumn, millions arrive to rest in the fir trees, sip from nectaring plants, and fan their wings in the sun. In the spring, they begin their journey north. This place is called the Magic Circle. I remember the day the butterflies left. They were the color of the sun setting on the mountains. When they flew away, their wings rustled like skirts. That was the day my grandmother died. Grandmother was my best friend. When we made tortillas together, we sang our favorite songs. When the tortillas were ready, we cooked them side by side. At night, Mama tucked me into bed, but I heard monsters slither on the floor. They snapped their teeth and hissed my name. I cried out to Papa. He said, "You must be brave." I called to Mama. She said, "Nonsense, there are no monsters." But grandmother leaned her broom against my bed and laid beside me, smelling of cornmeal and roses. "If the monsters dare to come," she said, "I'll chase them away with my broom." With grandmother next to me, no monsters snapped their teeth, and none of them hissed my name. In winter, grandmother and I loved to visit the Magic Circle. We sat on the forest floor and let the butterflies cover us with gold. We let them fan their wings on our shoulders and tickle our arms with their legs. One spring, grandmother became as thin as smoke. She didn't make tortillas. She was too tired. She said, "It's almost time for the butterflies to leave. Come with me to the Magic Circle and we'll say goodbye." It was a cloudy day and the butterflies clung to the trees. One butterfly lay on the forest floor. I picked him up and blew warm breath on him. He shook his wings and flew away. "Close your eyes," grandmother said. "Do you still feel the butterfly?" I nodded. My arms still tickled. That's because they carry the souls of the old ones, and the ones never really leave. Then the sun came out. The butterflies rose in a whoosh. They filled the sky with gold. In a few weeks, all the butterflies were gone. The Magic Circle was empty. That was the day grandmother died. Papa took me to the Magic Circle and we cried together. He said, when you love someone, they never really leave. But the butterflies were gone. My arm didn't feel the tickle anymore. That night, the monsters crouched beneath my bed and hissed my name. I trembled in my bed alone. I wanted grandmother. There was no one between me and the monsters. The days passed, and it was the season for Day of the Dead, the time to remember the old ones. Papa set up an ofrenda, or altar. On it, Mama put candles, oranges, and grandmother's picture. I added her broom. rose petals, and cornmeal. Papa said, "I remember grandmother." Mama said, "I remember that she taught me how to cook." I tried to remember grandmother too, but she seemed far away. The next morning we walked to the cemetery. We cleaned up the graves of the old ones. The neighbors brought picnic baskets and flowers and told stories. One man sang grandmother's favorite songs. There was a tiny flicker in the sky. It was a butterfly. I said, "I remember that grandmother was brave. She chased monsters with her broom. I remember how she smelled like cornmeal and roses. She sang songs and made tortillas when she took me to the magic circle. It really was full of magic." The butterfly shook its wings and flew away. I closed my eyes and I could still feel the tickle. In my head, I heard grandmother's songs. I smelled roses and cornmeal. Now I remembered grandmother.
I discovered grief when I was 9 years old. I knew before then that all living things die and we miss the ones we love, but I didn't really know. Nearly half a century later, I still remember the exact moment when death and grief stopped being just in my head and first found their way into my body. It was a book, Little Women. If you haven't read it or seen the movie, spoiler alert for the next few seconds. Beth, the sister who became ill as a teenager and died a few years later. Now, I thought Beth was somewhat oppressively saintly, but still, she was alive for me. And with her death, it suddenly hit me. Everyone I know and care about will die, and some will be way too soon. In that moment, even before personal experience of great loss, I knew. My body knew. I was grieving. It probably won't surprise you that my grief, rooted in a fictional character, didn't inspire a lot of sympathy. There are some pretty set ideas about when and how grief is supposed to happen. And there's a tendency to discount certain grief. It was just a pet, just a distant relative, a long time ago, or it hasn't even happened yet. But grief doesn't follow anybody's rules. And yet, you know what it feels like when grief takes up residence in your body. Because we all grieve. We grieve those we have lost, people we loved, people who chased away our monsters, who helped shape our lives and whose songs we still hear. Grief today is exacerbated, perhaps even overwhelmed, by the overarching grief of our context. There have been many deaths this year, mostly without a chance to gather and say goodbye. And other losses, relationships, opportunities, health, financial, a sense of safety. Many have lost some faith in this country, our fellow citizens, and our ability to pass a livable planet and a more just world to future generations. All these losses have come so fast, one on top of the other, with no end in sight. There hasn't been time for, or a lot of attention to, grieving. Some, maybe all of this is in each of our bodies right now, along with the people whose names are in our hearts and perhaps spoken here today. What are we to do with all this grief? New Englanders have a reputation for not dwelling on hard things. You may be one of the exceptions, but for many of us, there is a tendency to decide we're over it and move on. But we don't get over our deep losses. We carry them with us. Although the quality of grief changes over time, we don't put our pain behind us. What we can do is make it sacred. Making the pain sacred is the language of Serene Jones, president of Union Theological Seminary and very wise person. She makes a distinction between grief and the healing process of mourning. Grief, she says, is a place of sheer loss, an eternal present, where we can become locked in. But grief can become mourning, a place where we acknowledge the loss, we know it cannot be fixed, and yet we make sacred the pain so that the rest of our life is transformed by it. Mourning, she says, allows the possibility of a future. My 9-year-old self found her way into that eternal present of sheer loss. Not that I had those words, or any words to describe it, but my body knew. Perhaps yours does too. I've been to that hard place many times since then. Sometimes, from that place, a future has emerged, a life transformed, pain made sacred. I want to be careful here, because we're bumping up against big questions about the meaning of suffering. Many do find comfort and meaning in a belief that pain comes into our lives for a reason, to punish or test us, or to teach us something, or to bring about a greater good. That's not where I'm coming from. I do not believe that there is a wider purpose or something inherently beneficial about suffering, including grief. I do believe that with suffering can come opportunities for learning and growth, even transformation. The transformation, when it comes, can be subtle, hard even to notice in ourselves. For me, it has at times felt like a softening, a bodily remembering of interconnection, the experience of a love that is big enough to hold the loss. Or the transformation might be obvious to everyone. Parkland students who became gun reform activists, grieving parents who create and lead organizations that work for peace and justice. And there's a lot of space in between. My Aunt Pat died 15 years ago. She was, for a while, a Catholic nun, and after that she devoted her life to teaching music and helping others live into their talents through the arts and debate. And she was good company. She and I once drove 1,300 miles together in a Chevy Vega, a deservedly short-lived car that some of you might remember. She was undeterred by the fact that she didn't actually know how to drive a stick shift. It was after her death that her life and her loss changed me. This was part of what led me to leave my law career and begin the path that has wound its way to ministry. And wherever I live now, her picture hangs above the desk where I write, a reminder of her ongoing, sacred place in my memory and my life. Our task is not to avoid grief or to get over it, but to make it sacred, moving into a future in which we allow it to transform us. There's no timeline for this work, and it's certainly not a linear process. Like the despair that Reverend Carolyn spoke about last week, grief is sneaky. We can make a return visit to that eternal present of sheer loss when we least expect it. Some of this is out of our control. A matter of grace, some would say. But not all of it. There is something we can do. We can remember. Not as a fleeting thought, but intentional, grateful, deep remembering. With our bodies. Like the child in our story, remembering through her community's embodied practices of tending grave sites, visiting places where those who have died feel closer, telling their stories, singing their songs. And as we're doing today, in this communion of memory, speaking names, lighting candles, holding one another's pain, even laughing and crying, this practice of remembering together keeps present those we have lost and sustains us spiritually. Not so we can get over grief, but so we might make it sacred. At All Souls, there is a tradition of this service of remembrance transitioning into a children's Halloween costume party. Right in the sanctuary. Worship blending seamlessly into Halloween. When I first heard about this last year, I thought it was a little odd, but I soon realized how wrong I was. This practice is a reminder that our remembering together carries us into a future, and that future refuses to be cowed by the pain of being human. As with many things right now, the party is on hold. But there will be photos of young people in their costumes to share with you next Sunday. And in future years, for this service and Halloween, we'll all be back in Unity Hall. In the meantime, let us remember, intentionally and deeply, those we have lost. Here in this community, may we always know that we do not grieve alone. And as we grieve, may we be transformed in ways subtle and perhaps radical, offering healing to ourselves and this hurting world, making sacred the pain. May it be so. Amen. I invite you into Gery's musical meditation.
And thank you, Anne, for holding tenderly our deep losses and helping us to make them sacred. We now enter into our offering for the life and the work of this congregation. We know that this is a time of economic uncertainty for many people. So we ask that you give what is feasible for you at this time. Contributions can be made by Venmo or PayPal or by mailed check. Please speak with me the words in our order of worship. We give to the work of all souls. Our work weaves the fabric of love called community. To this end, we dedicate ourselves and this our offering. The offering will be gratefully received. For all you have given, for all that you've sacrificed, thank you. Each week we pause to pay attention to the joy or sorrow that we experienced in the week just past. There are two ways to share. One is by email to belovedcommunity@allsouls.net. Joys and sorrows that are received by 2 p.m. on Thursday are read aloud in the Sunday service. Or right now, you can share by entering your joy or sorrow into the chat, where it will be witnessed and held by those assembled here in worship. As you type your joys and sorrows in the chat, Anne and I will light our candles of intention for a minute of shared silence. Amen. It is with sadness that I share that Cindy Beebe, mother of Jillian Beebe and grandmother of Ginger and William, died on October 15th. We hold Jillian and Ginger and William in our hearts as they grieve this deep loss. Let us lean deeply into the ground of all being. Let us enter a space of prayer and meditation. Resting in that ground of all being, whose many sources and many names help us to find our compass. Following your breath to a stillness, may you find serenity in this moment. Tapping into the loves of your heart, the ones who are gone from this life we know. May you remember, and may their memory be a blessing to you in these days. And let us spend extra time in this kind of depth in the coming days to bring our best selves to the challenges of our communities. Let us say amen. I hope you'll join me in singing along with Jesse our closing hymn, When the Saints Go Marching In.
We are traveling in the footsteps of those that had come before, and we'll all be reunited on that new and sunlit shore. Oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in, Lord, how I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in, oh, when the trumpet sounds its call, oh, when the trumpet sounds its call, Lord, how I want to be in that number. When the trumpet sounds its call, oh, when the saints go marching in, when the saints go marching in, how I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in.
Thank you, Jesse. As Anne extinguishes our chalice, please speak with me the words in our order of worship. Our service has ended, but our work is not yet done. May our spirits be renewed and our purpose resolved as we meet the challenges of the week. Our chalice flame is extinguished until once again ignited by the strength of our communion.
As we close our service, let us continue our pandemic practice of placing one hand on our hearts and reaching out with the other to connect with those gathered today and all the saints of memory. We remember, and we are not alone. Let us go forth into the future with all the saints who have gone before and all the possibilities of pain made sacred and a life and a world transformed. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Anne.
Yes, thank you, Caitlin. Thank everyone for being here.
Mm-hmm.
Good to be together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have a few announcements to share. While unfortunately we cannot hold a Halloween party this year, we would still like to share and enjoy photos of All Souls young people in their costumes, as Anne mentioned. So please send photos to office@allsouls.net, and they'll be shared in next week's service. Tammy needs to receive your photo no later than Wednesday, October 28th. So I figure when you're trying on your costumes for last minute adjustments, you could just make sure to snap a quick photo. Also, we'd like to share that this Thursday, October 29th at 6:30, you can join All Souls and Manchester UU Society East for an adult faith formation program with Alec Gewirtz, a Fulbright research scholar, who will share his experiences living in an interfaith community for people with intellectual disabilities. There will be much to learn. And now please enjoy a postlude from Gery and continue to connect in the chat. We wish you well. Until next time.